Alrighty, welcome Course 3 students. Here is the part 2 of the lesson 2.3 video about subtracting your rational numbers. Remember, I split this up on purpose to give you a little more time to practice those addition and subtraction skills with your rational numbers. Sorry, I have the water kettle going on. So your objectives are I can subtract rational numbers and I can solve real life problems. So looking ahead at subtracting your rational numbers, so to subtract rational numbers, use the same rules for signs as you use for integers. So again, when we do subtracting of negatives, really remember a subtracting of a negative ends up making it a positive. I'm adding a positive. So we're changing all of our subtraction into adding the opposite. Okay, so let's go ahead and start looking at a couple examples, whether we're using fractions or decimals, and see how that goes. So example 1, I've already got a fraction here. I can notice that my operation is subtraction indeed. I also notice that both of these are negatives. I'm realizing that my denominators are the same, which is a good start. One thing though I notice is I have an actual fraction here, and this one I've got a mixed number. And so I think my first thing is I'm going to actually change this mixed number back into an improper fraction. So I have -4 and 1/7. So we're going to actually take this -4 and times it by 7. -4 times 7 is 28. 28 plus 1 is 29. Or sorry. Let's do this again. Let's not worry about the negative. So 4 times 7 is 28. Add the 1, 29, and then we'll put the negative back up. And then 7. Okay? So all I did is just change this to its improper fraction form. The second part I notice here, though, as I kind of was saying, they're both negative, but I have a minus and negative. Remember, we're going to change our subtraction into adding the opposite. Well, the opposite of -67 is a positive, 6/7. 6/7. And now, since we have an addition problem, remember we keep that denominator the same, so I'm still going to keep this as 7. And then really at the top I have -29 plus a positive 6. So this means I'm going to go 6 closer to the number line. And so in this case, I would have -23 out of 7. I could simplify this into, you can make it into that improper fraction, so that would be -3 and 2/7 if you want. But I will be okay with either form, okay? So biggest thing on this one was changing this one into an improper fraction first. That way it's easier for me to do the operation, and then I changed my operation from subtraction to adding the opposite, okay? Or I know that minus and a minus make a positive. And then I just do the operation on the top. The denominator stays the same. All right. So let's take a look at one with decimals this time. So remember, we're going to change this ultimately to adding the opposite, especially because, and in this case, because I noticed that this 12.8 is smaller than 21.6. So let's go ahead and change this to adding the opposite. So I have 12.8. The first one stays. Remember that? You change this to addition, and we're going to change this to -21.6. I like to add in the parentheses so I understand that this is the main operation, that this is not just a subtraction, this is just a negative sign. Now we have two different signs. In our sign operations, it means we need to take the absolute value of both. So this would turn into 21.6. This would be still 12.8. I take the larger, subtract the smaller, so 21.6 minus 12.8. Divide them out, or sorry, subtract them out. I don't know why I said divide out. Alright, so then I'd be left with, I gotta do a lot of moving on this one. 8.8. Now I have to also notice then what was the original larger. So 21.6 was larger, but in the original 21.6, once I moved it in this addition, it was negative. I'm not looking at it from the subtraction, I'm looking from here. So it is going to be a negative 8.8. Another way you can tell if it's going to be a negative number when you have originally what looks to be two positive numbers subtracting each other is if that second number is larger than the first. You know that you're going to get into the negatives. Okay, that's why we have to do all these other rules and things to figure it out. So if that second number is larger than the first, you know that your answer is going to be somewhere in the negatives. All right, this one I'm actually pretty excited about because we talk a lot about our number lines, and we can have horizontal number lines as well as vertical number lines. So this in this case is a vertical number line. They want us to find the distance between the two numbers on the number line. So ultimately I have 2 and 1/3, and I have negative 2 and 2/3. So let's write those down. And negative 2 and 2/3. I want to find this distance in between. Well, one way I can figure this out is I know from 0 to this is 2 and 1/3, like you said, and from 0 to here, this is also then a distance of 2 and 2/3. Remember, distance is never negative. I can't make this negative, okay? So we're really just finding the distance in between them. So one way I could do this is by subtracting them. Subtracting would show me that difference between the two, but also I can notice that doing this, I end up with two positives and I can add them, because really when you have minusing and negative, you end up adding. So you'd have 2 and 1/3 plus then a positive, because we're changing it to adding the opposite, 2 and 2/3. So in this case, I would start by looking at my whole values. 2 and 2 is 4, but also let's look at our fractions here. I have 1/3 and 2/3. I know that 1/3 plus 2/3 equals 1 whole. So in theory, then I have 1 whole plus 2 whole plus another 2. So in theory, I would have 5 as my actual solution. No fractions left because they added together and made 1 whole value. So the distance between each other is 5. Okay, 5 spaces is another way you could write it. Alrighty, so that's actually all I really wanted to go through in this video, and so a lot of it just comes down to practicing those skills and understanding to changing your fractions or changing your decimals or so on. And so I actually want to make this as your question for this video. So this is going to be kind of like your exit ticket. And to show me that you watched the video, you are going to submit your answer to this question. So they want you to find the distance between negative 7.5 and negative 15.3 on a number line. So I'll get you kind of started. It's not going to be exact, but you can kind of see. So let's maybe make this 0. Well, let's go by 2's. Oops, that didn't go by 2's. All right, so your negative 7.5 is going to be probably about here-ish. And your negative 15.3 is going to be kind of about here-ish. All right, so what is the distance in between them? Remember, distance is not negative, so figure out how you're going to solve it and submit your answer below to show that you watched this video. I will see you guys next time.